My name is Cloud.
My name is Cloud.
俺はクラウド。
Soldier. First class.
Cloud Strife is arguably the most iconic Final Fantasy character. From his spiky blonde hair to his oversized weapons and asymmetric outfits, it's easy to see why his design is so memorable. But something has always confused me about Cloud. Since his vocal debut on the PlayStation 2, Cloud's adult voice has remained the same to this day. In Japanese. If you ignore these games. In English, Cloud has had 2 different voice actors, but all 3 of them give quite a different performance when reading Cloud's lines, leading to very different interpretations of who he is based solely on who's voicing him, and this isn't just limited to dialogue. So today, we'll be analyzing the nuances, history, and vocal evolution of the consistently confusing character, Cloud Strife. Jayniac. Since his inception, Cloud was intended to be a sort of deviation from your standard JRPG protagonist. Rather than genuinely having a boisterous or arrogant personality, any and all traces of being a battle-hardened soldier with insurmountable confidence was a farce. Cloud's not a soldier. He's a guy playing soldier. A guy who looked up to soldiers as a child, who's now convinced himself that this is how soldiers behave. And as the game progresses, his real personality slips through the cracks. In reality, Cloud's insecure and a bit of a dork. And anytime this side of himself was unwittingly put on display, he'd be very quick to backpedal. All of this was presented to the player through text and on-screen animation. Because of this, it can be a bit challenging to interpret some of Cloud's dialogue and the intention behind it. You'd think the advent of technology capable of using voices in the games would remedy this, but this is where we run into our first problem. After the mind-numbing success of Final Fantasy VII, it only made sense to capitalize on that success by featuring everyone's favorite spiky blonde soldier in a plethora of sequels, spin-offs, and other series, the first of which being 2002's Kingdom Hearts, where right away you might notice something's a little strange. A red cape, a metal claw, extra pairs of belts. None of these features were synonymous with the previous rendition of Cloud Strife. But rather, Vincent Valentine, a completely different Final Fantasy VII character. This is a problem because now Cloud, who was once depicted as a guy pretending to be the edgy action hero, is playing it completely straight. You see, Vincent is the dark and brooding bad boy. He's the undead loner that wishes to atone for his past failures. But for some strange reason, all of those attributes are now given to Cloud in his first voiced role, which means the voice actors were likely directed to play Cloud this way instead of how he was originally portrayed. Because of this, so many of Cloud's lines sound like this.
I'm looking for someone. Hades promised to help. I tried to exploit the power of darkness, but it backfired. I fell into darkness, and I couldn't find the light.
Dry, stoic, monotone. Nothing at all like Cloud in the original game. Now, in order to thoroughly analyze each voice, we need to pay close attention to how lines are being delivered, what words are being held, what phrases are being strained, and most importantly, the tone in which they are being presented. Unfortunately, I skipped all my Japanese classes to play dissidia in the back of my car, which is to say, it'd be hard for me to intricately analyze a vocal performance in a language I'm unfamiliar with, but I'd be remiss if I didn't at the very least mention Cloud's tone in Japanese.
死者の国の神、ハデスが子供を恐れるのか。
Takahiro Sakurai, who's been voicing Cloud for over 20 years, lends a greater deal of confidence to Cloud's personality. This is especially noticeable when contrasted with Steve Burton's voice in English.
How about a rematch sometime? Fair and square, no dark powers involved.
I think I'll pass. 興味ないね.
But hey, Kingdom Hearts is just a side series, so what if they fuse two characters? It's not like they do that for an actual Final Fantasy VII sequel, right? Come on, there's no way. "2005 gave us the first direct sequel to Final Fantasy VII, the animated feature film Final Fantasy VII Advent Children. In 2006, we got it in English, and, well, take a listen."
Do I feel sorry for you? I pity you. I want to be forgiven, more than anything.
Yeah, the vocal direction didn't get any better. To be fair though, the movie's plot centers around Cloud fighting off a disease called geostigma. One of the symptoms is fatigue, so, like, maybe he's just tired? Though there are a few scenes where Cloud's voice is pushed to demonstrate his distress.
Tifa! Tifa!
For the most part, he sounds pretty docile. Take this scene for example. Here, Tifa is scolding Cloud for being so moody.
There's no cure.
Yeah, but that's not stopping Denzel, is it?
I'm not fit to help anyone. Nobody.
Now, let's hear it in Japanese.
治療法がない。
でも、デンゼルは頑張ってるよね。
誰も助けられないと思うんだ。誰も。
From the cadence of his words to the change of his volume, it sounds almost like poetry. Cloud, who had been living behind a false identity for years prior to this, only recently learned to genuinely open up to people. Now, being infected with geostigma, he not only puts up his barriers again, the facade he once championed is in full effect. Cloud's reverting back to his fake self as a coping mechanism, but deep down, the traces of him putting on a show are still there, hence the poetic tone. Or, hey, maybe I'm just reading into it too much. Let's move on. The same year this movie was released, Japan got Last Order Final Fantasy VII, a 25-minute OVA recreating an iconic moment from the original game. Unfortunately, it was only ever officially released in Japanese. Though there does exist an English fan dub on YouTube, it's pretty good, check it out. Shortly thereafter, Cloud would play a supporting role in Kingdom Hearts 2 and Dirge of Cerberus Final Fantasy VII. Not much changes in terms of Cloud's presentation, that is, except for one particular instance.
We lost contact about 15 minutes ago. I don't think we have to worry though. Those two should be fine.
Yeah, and what about you?
What do you think?
Right.
And as for you...
Don't worry. Leave deep ground to me.
Can you hold on a second? Tifa!
Good luck! Give him hell, Vincent! Barrett, I thought I told you
Don't
to...
go getting yourself killed now.
For the first time ever, we hear a more jovial side to Cloud in English, fitting seeing as how Dirge of Cerberus takes place after Advent Children. Cloud must have gotten out of his angsty phase. Then, 2007 gave us a prequel to the original game, Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII, which would later be remastered and redubbed in 2022. Currently, this is the first instance where Takahiro Sakurai, Steve Burton, and Final Fantasy VII Remake's English dub newcomer, Cody Christian, all do the exact same lines. So what better way to compare them than with one iconic battle cry?
Sephiroth! Sephiroth!
Where do we begin? In all fairness, Cody Christian does a wonderful job portraying Cloud, both here and in Remake, even going so far as to make him sound significantly younger in Crisis Core, much like Steve Burton. It's this line that really stood out to me while playing through Crisis Core Reunion. It sounds like Cloud's living in a basement apartment and doesn't want to wake up his landlord upstairs.
Sephiroth!
Last time, we discussed how drastically different Zack's new voice is, but I'm happy to say that Cloud's new English voice is almost identical to his original one, with a few nuances sprinkled here and there.
Hey, Zack. You know, I've never seen you use that.
Hey, Zach. I really like that sword. It's impressive.
Side comment, I had initially thought that changing this line made sense, seeing as how Cloud definitely would have seen Zack use the Buster Sword at some point in time, but as many have pointed out, the original line was a callback to Zack telling Angeal he'd never seen him use his sword. So now, Zack having a flashback makes little sense. Though we could chalk it up as Zack just remembering Angeal because Cloud acknowledges the sword at all, because seriously, how could he not have seen Zack use it? He must have, right? Personally, I think Crisis Core is Burton's best performance as Cloud. The only other instance of him voicing Cloud that really stood out to me was in Dissidia Final Fantasy. NT, that is. Now, in the original Dissidia and its sequel, Duodecim, Cloud demonstrates a lot of his usual stoicism.
An answer. I'm tired of taking part in pointless battles. We're enemies no matter how you look at it. We have to fight.
But in NT, for the first time ever, Burton is allowed to play Cloud the way he was originally portrayed, confidently.
Looks like I finally found my way.
Sarcastically.
Such a warm welcome.
He's got a bit of a southern twang, and get this, he even laughs. But then you get the rest of his dialogue, and...
Don't get in my way, or else. Just do what you can. Bigger than a reactor.
Now look, I'm not here to criticize anyone's performance, I'm just analyzing what we got, and what we got was a very strange direction for Cloud's English voice, which fortunately was remedied once the remake released in 2020. Here, adult Cloud's English voice was played solely by Cody Christian, who is given numerous opportunities to demonstrate things other than indifference.
That wasn't the deal.
You mean you want more? Even though you've got a priceless reward coming your way? Do you know what I promised him?
I'll do it.
That went pretty well.
Sure did.
Huh? Wait a minute, did you just...
Nope.
Let's get down to business, shall we? Most every home in the area has one. Folks love them because they practically eliminate the rotten egg smell. Honestly, they make us more money than this place. And it's easy money, too.
Give me a break. I'm not a salesman. I'm a soldier.
It took over 20 years, but now Cloud finally sounds the way he's supposed to in English. So, there you have it. Of the 950 people that voted in my community poll, 50% wanted an analysis on Cloud's voice. I hope you enjoyed it. If we're going to keep talking about character voices, I'd love to go over Tifa's next. She's a very unique character, and I've always had a soft spot for Rachel Leigh Cook's portrayal of the character. In a way, it's kind of meta. You see, Rachel came to prominence in the mid to late 90s. 1997 was when Final Fantasy VII released, and gave us Tifa Lockhart, my favorite woman in video gaming. The series spanned across various mediums like novels, CDs, and film, but never found its way to television. 1998, 1 year later, Buffy the Vampire Slayer is redefining standard television programming in its third season, the season that introduces Faith, a character played by my favorite actress Eliza Dushku. Fast forward to 1999, a year after that, and Final Fantasy VIII hit the shelves, starring a cast of youngsters attending a military academy not unlike a high school. And it was in the year 2000 that Eliza Dushku played Missy in the high school comedy Bring It On. And if you start the film at 21 minutes and 34 seconds, you'll notice on Missy's dashboard a statue of Tifa Lockhart. Be sure to follow my social medias, but especially Twitch if you want to see me live stream. If you like hearing my voice, be sure to follow the Junior and Marcus Talk podcast, available on anywhere you get your podcast. If you'd like to be a part of something special, be sure to join my Discord. And finally, be sure to check out the merchandise. Hopefully there will be new stuff at the end of this month, or, I don't know, sometime this year. I'm genuinely surprised that 17% of people voted for River City Girls. How many of you are playing that game? What'd you think of the second one? And to all the Final Fantasy fans, how do you feel about Rebirth? I'm hoping to stream it at the end of this year, but until then, I'll leave you with this.
What, you're gonna call your guards on us? In case you haven't noticed, they're all beat up.
Yeah, we did that. For love.